Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes,
All right.
we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we chose a topic today of navigating purpose-led entrepreneurship because it's something that really connects all of us. We'll talk about more of that, but it was really something that I noticed from my time in the nanny industry and working with agencies, and even from the last webinars that Ange and I had, is that that's just a commonality that kind of connects us all. And so I wanted just to take a moment to kind of explore that further. And I'm still relatively new to entrepreneurship, but I plan on giving my what I've learned so far, and love to hear from you guys too, and to make it collaborative and interactive. So please feel free to chime in as we go with any thoughts, observations, questions. But I wanted to do a quick introduction to myself first. So there are some names and faces that I haven't met yet. So I am super excited to meet you guys and to have some time with you here. So a little bit about me, and I promise this all actually relates, the calculation on a beer. But that's my family, our two girls, Addie and Kinsley. Addie's 4, Kinsley's 2. My wonderful husband, who has agreed to help support us during this entrepreneurial venture. Can't thank him enough. And another important person as part of this is my dad, who's actually my co-founder. He spent the last, I think, 18 years as the CEO of a large regional staffing firm here in New England. And so he's very familiar with the staffing world, which actually has turned out to help us in this case. Not incredibly tech savvy, so that one's on me. But he's very knowledgeable about business, and he's just the most supportive dad. So I'm very thankful for that. So my time in corporate America so far, I started as an accountant. So I'm a CPA, and so I spent 5 years in public accounting doing external auditing, working the busy seasons. I decided to move on from there to go work for a company called Boston Beer Company. So Sam Adams is the main sort of flagship, but the shining star of it was Truly, as you probably have had a few yourselves, and Angry Orchard Twisted Tea. And so I went into that in an internal audit role, but quickly realized that I wanted to do more value added work. And so I went into process improvement and worked with our brand teams, our HR teams, our sales teams, and then settled into the supply chain where the last couple of years, I was planning our production between our multiple locations. So I talked a lot about beer, a lot about Truly, but it was fun while it lasted. But it was there for about 7.5 years. And then decided to take on an entrepreneurial venture. And so that's when we created Raise Kids. So I'll talk more about what Raise Kids is later on, so we have some context about that. So as I mentioned before, we chose this topic because it's something that really connects each of us. And so like if I go back to September of last year, we decided to sponsor the APNA conference. And we had just launched, so we launched our company, we launched the actual app in May of last year. In September, we launched version 2, which was really the full set of the app. So we kind of launched with half the features, and then in September, launched with the full set. And we did take the leap to sponsor APNA a couple weeks after we launched that. And with that sponsorship, we had 5 minutes to present in front of everyone. So I had just left my corporate job, put all my eggs in one basket here, and went in to meet entirely new people who I'd never met before. And then had to present this product that I had just really put everything into, and hoping that they would take to it. And it was just incredibly an overwhelming experience to go through. But the thing that really calmed me down and calmed my nerves was identifying that everyone in the room was in a very similar position. Maybe they didn't develop an app, but they all took some sort of a leap to create their own company. And that is a risk. And it ended up being a very welcoming environment. And I think a lot of it's because many of us are moms. Many of us have gone through a very similar thing. And it's something that really kind of helps to connect us all. And, you know, when I think of entrepreneurship, it's very challenging. And I think we don't often enough step back to really just think about that and acknowledge it and say, yeah, this kind of sucks sometimes. It's really hard. There's so many beautiful, wonderful things about it. It's fulfilling, it's challenging, it's, all the things that I was hoping for when I got into it. But at the same time, it can also be very overwhelming. And I find that the community, the times I feel best are usually when I'm speaking with other entrepreneurs. For instance, Daniel and I talk a lot, and I always feel great coming out of those conversations because I learned something that Engine Hire is doing that we could be doing differently, or just be able to empathize with the idea that, yeah, we don't know all the answers, and that's okay, and we learn as we go. So that was why we chose this topic. I'll talk about why I got into this business specifically. So as I mentioned, I was in corporate America, living in spreadsheets, and ended up kind of living in a world of politics that I hadn't really planned on. As the company grew significantly, over doubled in size over the time I was there. It ended up being pretty challenging to navigate. And I was giving my all because I don't know how to do anything else. And I found that it wasn't quite equally rewarding for what I was giving for what I was getting. And I thought, if I'm giving all of this, I want it to be to build something for myself versus building something for someone else. And I found some of the times that I was most passionate were when I had to problem solve. I had to think outside the box. I had to think of solutions that we didn't have yet. And that really is a great start for an entrepreneur. So I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to work for myself. I wanted to be able to create and use that part of my brain that I hadn't really been able to use that much, and take on the challenge of starting something new. And of course, for my kids, it's multiple reasons why it's beneficial, why this is beneficial for my kids. One of the largest reasons is because it's a product that is made to help them. And there's nothing more motivating than that. It's also been super fun to be able to work with them. So this is a picture that I took the other day for one of our activities, which is a teamwork ball relay, where the nannies who prepare our activities couldn't really take valid pictures because of our NDAs. So I took one of my kids, but we were doing it together, and they were having so much fun. And seeing how much they're learning through it, it's just really fulfilling when I can see that. Where Addie was trying to help Kinsley tell her how to walk side by side to get to the end. And so it's really nice to be able to have a product that I can see that actually helps them. And also the flexibility of being able to spend a little bit more time with them. I think probably most of us know as an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily get more time. Anything, I think I work more than I ever worked before, but it's more that I can choose when I want to work. And I can make the time available, and it's really up to me, not up to someone else. And so that feels really nice at this stage in my life to be able to spend time with them. So, so what is Raise Kids? So just a quick introduction of what the app is. So I compare it to like the daycare apps, but it's really a lot more than that. And it's specifically tailored for the home environment, where we haven't had an app like that before that is servicing the home childcare community. And so there's features that are like daycare, but there's a lot more that's needed for the home environment when you don't have the resources of a large center to have the a sort of learning environment that you want to be able to have. We help to provide that into each individual home. So what it is, it's an app, and it's used by parents and by caregivers. And so it's a means of communication. So we facilitate easy communication. So this is very similar to the daycare apps, where you're being communicated of what the kids are doing during the day. You can share pictures. Of course, this sort of like logistical things about lunch and naps and diapers are great to know. My favorite thing is seeing the activities that they're doing and seeing pictures that are shared throughout the day. And so pictures you can share easily, and they go into this shared photo album that is obviously shared between myself, my husband. We have an au pair, so our au pair is the one who is adding a lot of these. We add a lot too, but I also invite my parents, my in-laws, my sisters, and so everyone can like and comment and download. And it's really just a fun, safe place to be able to house all these memories. And we create that learning environment through activities. And so we provide some play activities that are really skill-based, hands-on things to do at home. They're created by 2 fantastic nannies, and we add 6 new ones every week. They're all theme-based. They'll go into this repository. So we have over 350 of them at this point. We categorize them all to be able to find them easily. But what it really is a way to be able to get ideas for what you want to do for that week, and have a sort of Pinterest type board, but that's really structured and meant for the home environment. So it's much easier to use than a Pinterest type thing. We have materials lists that make that coordination pretty easy too. We want to make coordination between the parents and the caregivers easy. And so we have a scheduling feature where you can seamlessly be able to keep track of the kids' schedules. I know as our kids have gotten more and more things, it becomes more difficult. You can also keep track of their caregiver hours on there too, and make sure that they're clear on those. And then we also have safety information. So I joke that we could say the app was developed by an anxious mom, because it was. A lot of these ideas came from when my kids were infants and on, and how anxious I got about people being around my kids and not knowing how to care for them properly. And whether that was our au pair herself, or if it was my parents, my in-laws, it's really nice to be able to know that everyone's equipped with easy to access key safety information. So that is the app. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about what I've learned from the nanny industry. As you know, I'm very new to the nanny industry, but it's been a really incredible experience to get to know the nannies, the agencies, parents who are part of it. And I've learned a lot from that. I've learned that there's a community of really passionate nannies, and I didn't really understand that there were so many career nannies. And hearing the conversations that they have, we have a Facebook group with probably around 500 caregivers in there now, and to hear about how much they care about the development of their nanny kids is just such a heartwarming thing as a parent, to know that there are people out there that care that much. And when we ask them what their favorite age kids are, and Laura can attest to this too, it's the like 2 to 3, 2 to 4 age. And I find that to be such a hard age as a parent of a 2-year-old who can just be relatively insane sometimes. The fact that everyone appreciates that so much leads into my next point, that it's really made me a better parent, because I realize that there's so many small things that I need to appreciate every day about what they're learning and how they're developing. And it's simple things about like a little arts and crafts activity. I didn't realize how much they're getting out of that, or how much me just playing with them and allowing them to explore imaginative play really means in their day. And so I think I've become a better parent by paying attention to these small things and really appreciating them. It's a competitive environment, but it's still collaborative. I was shocked when I went to my first APNA conference and saw all these people who are competitors, maybe not direct competitors in their area, but many are, being so collaborative and caring for each other. And it shows that what's good for the nanny industry is good for everyone. And so the work that so many are doing to advance that and bring the respectable nanny industry to the forefront is really just an empowering thing, and just wonderful to be a part of. And and the entrepreneurs support each other. I was surprised at how many people have reached out saying that they're really looking for other female-led businesses and that to be able to support. And it just means the world to be able to have people, take a chance on us being a relatively new company, but want to support us. And even, of course, moms supporting other moms, but even, Akash and Daniel have been so supportive in helping us and wanting to make sure that we have the appropriate resources and we can just have conversations. It's really just a wonderful thing to be a part of. So, and now we get into the sort of purpose-led venture. I guess I could probably stop for a minute I didn't even stop and ask if there are any questions about like the app itself or my background or anything else that people wanted to go through. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I assume we're good. But oh, I think you're muted, Akash.
Yeah, Akash, you're muted.
Yeah, you know, please feel free to put questions into the chat anytime you feel like it. But
Okay.
come up. I guess
We have a message from Jade. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Shade. Yeah, I've had a lot of that same response. So the what I see as the benefits of a purpose-led venture, I think are pretty obvious to what you guys see too, which is that it's motivating. And like I said, there's nothing more motivating than wanting to have a product that helps my kids and helps me too, and helps our au pair and the others that I see, many other caregivers that I see who wanted resources but haven't had them. That certainly helps to fuel the late nights and the challenges that we can have as part of the development process. And I think you're more motivated to find creative solutions, whereas if you didn't really care about the product or didn't really, it wasn't as meaningful to you, I think you might start to give up more easily. But when you care so much about it and you are very passionate, you want to find those creative solutions, which is obviously needed for entrepreneurs. And you're likely to be in a position where you know the market because you got into it for a certain reason. So you are likely better to have a great product. I've seen others who have come into the industry and not known it, or not have been in a position as a parent to have gone through that experience of handing your 12-week-old baby off to someone who has very little experience to go to the office and then not hear anything all day. That it was motivating enough to say, okay, we need to find some way to be able to communicate better. And the anxiety that comes from that every day of wanting to know what my kids are doing, want to make sure that they're in good hands. So that helps to certainly come up with a better product that other people are also going to want. So before we talk about the potential pitfalls of a purpose-led venture, I wanted to use an analogy of another sort of passion-led industry, which oftentimes is the restaurant industry. So if you take, for instance, let's say this guy's name is John, and he opened his own restaurant because he just loves and appreciates good food. I think it's probably why a lot of people go into restaurants, because they just love good food. And it was always a dream of his to open a restaurant, and it's really a passion project for him. So he decides to open it. He looks for the right location, he signs a lease, he hires some staff, creates a menu, advertises, and opens his doors. But before he knows it, he's flooded trying to source ingredients because that has to happen every day, every week. He has to order menus, he has to order plates, glasses, he has to keep the staff happy, he has to keep track of finances. All of his day nearly is spent trying just to keep the doors open, which isn't probably what he intended to go into this sort of passion-led business for. So he likes the business and all, but he might not be actually doing things that are of value to the business. Sorry if you can hear some background noise, I just got home. Let me know if that's too loud. So he might not notice that. Sorry, let me just touch it real quick. Okay, so he may not notice, because he's so busy being in the back with the restaurant staff, that he's getting a lot of first-time visitors, but not many repeat customers. He may be happy that people are ordering from the menu, but never has time to really question if they're serving the right things. He spends all his time in the back of the house, and he never realized that it's actually very cold in the dining room, and the lighting is dim, and the music is too loud. And soon he'll start to have more and more empty seats, and he won't know why. And I think that's probably a very common thing that most of us can apply to our own businesses as we got into it, that we don't necessarily always pay attention to what the market wants because we're just so passionate about our own individual reason why we got into it. But there's a whole business that has to be run, and we might not really be attuned to all of that. So what I summarize to be some of the potential pitfalls of a purpose-led venture to be is that first off, you go in and you assume you know the market. And in this specific business, mine too, it's two-sided. You know, you have the nannies and you have the parents. And sometimes you can be both of them and have seen both of them. Doesn't necessarily mean you know the entire market, but many of us know one side of it. So I know the parent side very well. I don't know all of the parents. From what I hear, parents differ from what I've seen from feedback. But I think I generally understand that enough. But when I went into it, I did not really understand the nanny side of it. And that, you know, for instance, for us, what I didn't understand was nannies really oftentimes see the communication that they have is not necessarily a problem, where they might be fine texting or fine with a 20-minute debrief at the end of the day, where the parent really doesn't want a 20-minute debrief at the end of the day. And the parent doesn't want to be texted constantly during the day because it's hard to tell when there's a problem versus just a general update. And so I need to change the messaging that I'm doing to make sure that nannies understand the value that comes from that different means of communication. But it was something that I didn't really see to be a problem when we started. I just assumed nannies didn't have the tools that they needed. Once they had the tools, they would use them. And they love the activities portion of it, but there is some convincing to do on the communication side of why that's a better style. If you go into this as a parent, to go into creating your own agency, you might not understand what a nanny wants from the agency. You may not understand how difficult the whole process is for a nanny to apply. You may not understand what support a nanny really needs as part of the agency or from the agency. And as a nanny, you might not understand that most parents are not well versed in the childcare industry. They don't understand what standard benefits are and how to attract the best candidates for their jobs or how to be a good employer, because you know what it takes. You assume that everybody understands. You can have trouble objectively assessing market feedback. You can just assume that people don't understand what they're talking about. And it can feel really personal to get that feedback when you're so passionate about what this product is. So for us, it took me really objectively evaluating our onboarding process to see that it isn't all that easy. For me, it was easy. I designed it. And I sat down with our marketing consultant and went through step by step and realized, okay, I understand that could be confusing there. I understand that could be confusing. But it wasn't until someone that I trust forced me to sit down to do that I thought there might actually be a problem there. For you, it might be doing a full run through of your application process, you know, the interview, the feedback process, any challenges that, I understand the challenges that they face as part of that. You might have extra steps that are not there that are taking a long time. So people might start your application and not finish it. So why is that? And really step back from, you know, to the restaurant analogy, step back from the back of the kitchen and actually walk through the front doors and see what it takes to sit down at that booth and what that experience is like. You have a risk of unclear messaging because the message is so clear to you that you don't necessarily spend the time to make it succinct and make it as crystal clear as possibly could be. I certainly underestimated that when we launched. When I announced it back in April or May last year, I got messages from people, and one was from a former partner that I really respect. He's maybe in his late 50s or so, and it certainly past the childcare sort of realm. But he was like, well, what is it? I'm like, what do you mean, what is it? And that was really frustrating for me. Like, I think it's very clear what it is. But it clearly wasn't, and I could easily write that off as, he's not in the childcare industry, he doesn't know, therefore I don't worry about it. But if I want him to be advocating for us with, the other staff that he's working with to use us, I need everyone to understand that messaging. And so it took us really going back and spending a lot of time looking at that copy and seeing what is it that we really want to be conveying in our message. For you, it may be about the process of applying for a nanny, as a nanny. And, you could look at your websites as well and make sure that it's super clear to understand, what types of services you're offering, what types of people you're looking for. And especially for parents, making that really clear about what the value is of using a nanny agency, which I think not everyone knows. Like, I certainly didn't understand the value of having a nanny agency before I got so close to the nanny industry. You might be biased into certain markets, but that might not really be profitable for you. So for instance, for us, like, I'm really passionate about making sure that other au pairs have access to this, because I think so often there are situations, and I see them on the boards all the time, about challenges of kids not getting the appropriate attention, or they're not having the right resources that they need to be able to do the job, or challenges in communication. And having gone through that myself, I know that there's so much value there. But a way to get to those parents is oftentimes through agencies. And the au pair agencies are just really big. I mean, we've had interest from some, but they're more like niche ones, and really like high quality, sort of different au pairs than sort of the mass market is. And I had to kind of walk away from that. Eventually, I'm sure they will turn, but we really turned our focus to the nanny industry, who took to it right away. I mean, as Laura can attest to, in our first conversation, she was like, I've been waiting for an app like this for so long. And to me right there, I was like, okay, the nanny industry sees it and appreciates it. And I know we're going to have much more success there. So we really focused our attention there. It can be hard to assess when you need to pivot, because you're so passionate about what you've already done. The idea of walking away from it is really challenging. But oftentimes you do need to pivot. If you, for instance, if you got into, being biased into certain markets, if you got into this because you're an NCS and you want to be able to provide other, your area with NCS services more easily, but you're finding that you're not in an area that has the income that generally takes an NCS, or people don't really understand the value of an NCS. Maybe you do have to pivot and understand what that market that you're serving wants, or look to service a different market or a different area that does fully appreciate that. And there's, of course, a balance between having patience but being attuned to when you need to pivot, I think, is always something that we're constantly thinking about. So what do you do to mitigate that? I think the top thing is surround yourself with people who can be honest with you. And I have a few people like that. Laura's one of them, who is just fantastic at telling me when I am really not thinking of something straight. And it's really, really helpful to have that honest feedback. Our marketing consultant is the same way. She'll say the same thing over and over, and I ignore it until I realize she's right. But she knows that I might be obstructed in my view, and it's really helpful to have someone who can continue to push and tell you what you really need to hear. You need to ask for feedback. I was really resistant to asking for feedback because I thought that I knew it. Because I am the client, I didn't necessarily need all that feedback. But like I said, I don't know the nanny side of it. And also parents operate differently. And so I need to ask for that honest feedback often. I need to pay attention to the metrics that we have and say, okay, I see people are signing up and not coming back. Why is that? And not think that that's an anomaly, and really drill into it. Ask someone who didn't come back, why didn't you come back? So that we can understand, was it the onboarding process? Was it something that they didn't see right away? I know there's interest in it. So why is it they were interested enough to sign up for it? Why didn't they come back? Same thing might be for you. Why do people start an application and not come back? Or why did you have a nanny who you placed one time and then didn't come back to your agency? Understanding why, or family, understanding why that is really important. Continue to assess the market. What was I saying? Oh, market opportunities. So if you see something that, maybe the NCS thing, it does become a market opportunity for you, or maybe the temporary business does become an opportunity for you, but continuing to assess where it is, similar to the restaurant analogy of really, he's not evaluating what's on the menu because he just isn't paying attention to that. He's too busy serving the customers what's on the menu to assess if he's serving the right things. Pay attention to what the trends are. He needs to be paying attention to what trends in food are, trends in taste, and you need to be paying attention to what are trends. And I know some of you quickly pivoted with COVID to be able to identify remote learning as something that is another opportunity for you, but continuing to be mindful of that versus just continuing to offer the same services. You might be leaving something on the table. And don't be afraid to try something new. I mean, we try some things new all the time, and are looking just to dip our toe in the water, see how it goes. Okay, is that the right thing for us, or is it not? And so trying something new is never a bad thing, especially if you're doing the appropriate evaluation of it to know before you go and spend a bunch of money on an investment, is that something that will pay off with customers? So that's my spiel from my year plus of being a dedicated entrepreneur. I would love to hear from you guys about whether that is something that is similar for you, things that you found in your own businesses to have worked for you, or what some of the pitfalls are and how you overcame them. Is there anybody? I can't see the comments. I'll stop sharing my screen now so I can. Big. Any observations that people have of things that are similar to them or different? I would love to hear it.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
Allison, I'm good. How are you?
I really liked what you said. There was a lot of things. I don't know where to begin, but one of them that really stood out to me was having a clear message, because I've experienced that as well. You do your best to, state your mission on your website and give people a spiel about what you offer, but sometimes it still doesn't really click with people, or they think they have an idea of how you operate, but it's still not exactly what you do. And so I think being able to have a basic elevator pitch for your business and make sure that your messaging is consistent across all platforms and everything you do is really important. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and you guys are even in an industry that is known. Like we have a new product that we have to explain. You guys are in an industry that's known, so I'm sure you take it for granted even more that everyone understands what a nanny is and what a nanny agency does. But like you said, it's not everyone does. And so when you're publicizing, I know you're in the middle of launching and growing your agency. As you're looking for additional clients in your area, you're probably going to source from friends and family who don't know how to explain that. So for instance, my dad, who is a co-founder, we've talked about this so many times. He's like, Annie, I even have trouble explaining it to the people that I see at the playground or whatever, or people I meet with for coffee. Like I don't have a 30-second elevator pitch. And, I tried to do it and I'm like, I don't really have a 30-second elevator pitch either. And so it really took some time to craft that. And we're still kind of, moving around those words as we go.
Hi, Annie. It's Renee. Thank you for that. I think the biggest thing that stuck out for me in what I do personally, and then I've got lots of different things going on. So I have my own business, my own video business, and then I work for Apex, which is a care professional. We place care professionals. But I think the biggest thing for me was just really seeing it from the customer's perspective and not putting our head down and think, because you can get so focused on what you're doing and miss the whole boat. Like you said, with the chef leaving the back of the restaurant and coming out to the front and really seeing it from a customer perspective, because there are a lot of times that we miss the boat because we're not asking questions, we're not listening, and we're just kind of telling. So I've kind of taken a step back in my role daily and asking more questions and really listening and hearing them before I go into my spiel, which has helped a ton.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just thank you for that. It's a good reminder every day to just say, you know, what does this person need from me? It's really not about me, it's about them.
Right, right. And you learn so much just by listening.
Yes, yes. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I don't
Anybody
know if
else?
anyone else has any other questions, comments, anything they want to share. I know a lot of what you said, Annie, hits home for us. It's and even the thing Allison mentioned around trying to explain what your business is in 30 seconds or whatever, like we struggle with that all the time. I always feel like, oh, we do so many things. How do we explain it in 30 seconds?
Right.
But
how can I not mention the safety tips as part of it? You know, like how do you summarize this?
But then and then the other thing you mentioned around the you know, we sometimes assume other people know what we're talking about. But I was talking to someone yesterday and she was really upset of like, nobody understands the difference between a nanny and a babysitter, for example. And when she's talking to clients, and that's something, you know, us being in the industry, maybe we take for granted, but we have to kind of clearly communicate that other people won't know, you know, the clients we're working with, or sometimes even the candidates we're working with may not understand what it is that we do. And so yeah, and then
And I think in this current environment where so many people that are outside the industry, like so many parents who have never had a nanny before are looking for a nanny, it becomes even more important to firm up what that messaging looks like so that you can be prepared to service those.
Yeah. I think Laura is just agreeing that no one knows what the difference between those two are. So, but yeah, you know, and then I guess around the whole purpose-led entrepreneurship, and maybe just entrepreneurship in general, like I think the thing I think all of us know and understand is it's just really hard too. and so it's hard running a business, no matter what it is or why you're doing it. And so I think that it's important to remember that too, and just be kind to yourself, I guess, that maybe you won't always get everything right away. But yeah, thank you so much, Annie, for taking the time to present that and share your story. I think it's really amazing. And yeah, I hope everyone checks out Raise Kids if they haven't already. I think it's you know, like Annie mentioned, something the industry has been waiting for forever. So but yeah, and thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, you know, we're just excited to see how much everyone cares about the community. And yeah, well, I guess that's a wrap, Annie. I don't know. But yeah, hope to see all of you in the webinars that come up in the future. And yeah, and everyone, please take care, and we'll see everyone soon. And,
Thank
you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good day.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.